Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Just give me the facts. I just want the facts. You've heard that before, I'm sure. But sometimes there's a story that pops in your head regarding the facts, and a lot of times that's where you stray in a direction that's not serving you or wrong. We're going to talk about the stories we tell ourselves based on the facts. And he's somebody that is fact-based in terms of what he does, and that is life coach, success coach, mentor, speaker, accomplished author as well. Dr. Bary Fleet is back with us. Hey, Bary, how are you?
I'm good, Steve. How about yourself?
Well, and I'm really interested in digging into this because when I speak with somebody, I always say I deal in facts, and I do. It's, yeah, of course there's emotions that get in there, but the facts are always the facts. You can't deny them. People can if they want to, but that's my thing, the facts. But the stories we tell ourselves based on those facts sometimes go in a different direction, right?
Absolutely. What made me think about this topic is some time ago I had a client. His wife was convinced that he was having an affair, and his business required him to go to a conference out of town, an all-day conference. And he explained this to her, and he said, and I should be home about 8:30 tonight. And he walked in the house at 8:30. And that was proof to her that he was having an affair. Because how can you be out of state in another, 150 miles away and tell me what minute you're going to walk in the house from that far away? So you must have been somewhere locally so you could keep an eye on it, so you could come home at that time. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. The fact is, he came home at 8:30. Now, what's that? What's the story behind that? That he was true to his word? He kind of anticipated his schedule? He predicted it accurately? Or there's another way of explaining this behavior that fits how the image I want to maintain.
So I just got something from that. I mean, I got a lot from it, and I totally agree with you that you can make up a story with anything, and I think a lot of that is also fear-based. You always think of the negative worst case scenario, which I used to use that term all the time. I try to stay away from it because it's just negative. Why do you want to think of the worst case scenario? Why do you want to go there? It's probably not going to happen, but I will say this. You got the facts, and then you write the story in your mind based on what you think is going on there. If you go with your gut, usually you're going to be okay with what you're telling yourself based on the facts. That's what I've learned. I continue to learn. Your thoughts?
I think if you really go out with your gut, but what a lot of us do is we've got sort of this preconceived notion about the world and about people. So a silly example. One of the sort of standing jokes with my wife is she'll be in the kitchen doing something, and I'll come in the kitchen and I'll start doing things. Now, my intent is to help her with what she's doing. In reality, I'm in the way. So she can either go with, so the fact is I'm in the kitchen doing things with her at the same time she is. That's the fact. Now she can either say, there he goes again, he doesn't care about me, he's not thinking about me, he's just in his own head doing his own thing, and I don't matter. Or she can pause and think, what would his intent be? His intent is to help me. In fact, his behavior isn't helping me, but I'm going to judge him based on what I think his intent is, rather than a character flaw.
Interesting way to look at it, because it changes the dynamics. And the character flaw is based on
my preconception. In the instance that I mentioned earlier about the woman that was convinced her husband was having an affair, that was her mental framework And so everything I always say, and you've heard before too, we'd rather be right than happy. So if that's her framework, then everything that happens needs to fit into her framework so she can continue to be right.
Okay. And this, I'm gonna guess here that this whole situation with her thinking that he was cheating probably goes back to some other thoughts that she had, and now she just took this situation with him being late and all the information he gave, and just added that, okay, yeah, he's cheating. There you go again. There you go. That's right. There, she's writing that story again
Yeah, and she's coming up with proof to validate her story
in her mind.
in her mind,
Yeah.
rather than being able to step back and I always say, is there another way of explaining the fact? Is there another interpretation you can put that is at least as valid?
Hmm.
Uh, and 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 in absence of any other information, why not choose the better feeling thought?
I agree with you. You could always change your position on it. She could have in that situation. Did she did she actually accuse him of cheating based on everything, or this was just ruminating in her mind?
So this was an ongoing thing with her. Um, she had been cheated on before,
Okay,
not by him, but in her past,
which would be a fact.
which was a fact. Which is a fact.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hmm.
Um, and and so what what and the reason I say I'm a little shy about saying go with your gut because what with her history, that's how men are. There was a fact, there was something that happened, somebody cheated on her, and so that's how men are. And so now she's looking at all men's behavior
Hmm.
through that filter. So she's not really going into her gut. She's going into a framework that she's built, probably not at a conscious level, but that's what she's acting from.
And it's unfortunate because her gut is tarnished. He
Right.
could be the greatest guy in the world. There's no real reason to suspect that he's doing anything, but she's already got that gut feeling based on her past history. Uh, so I wonder if it really is a true gut feeling.
That's a good way to put it. Um, one of my classic stories, and I may have shared this with you before. I spent most of my life with very poor self-esteem. And after I got my doctorate, I was working for a nonprofit counseling agency, and they asked me about putting on an all-day workshop. And I had never done that before. And that my low self-esteem said, I don't know why anybody would pay to spend a beautiful Saturday in October inside with me, but I like money and I like challenges,
Hmm.
so I'll do this. And at the end of the workshop, I get the polite round of applause, and I can't read the room. I you know, and I'm packing up my stuff, and this rather attractive lady comes up to me and says, "Dr. Fleet, I just want to tell you, I really like your tie." And then she turned and left. So the fact is, this attractive woman came up and said that she liked my tie. Now, what do I do with that fact? Because of my history of poor self-esteem, I make up a story. That's what we do. We make up stories about everything.
Sure.
And the story I make up is she knows that I have completely humiliated myself. I've embarrassed myself in front of all these people. She feels sorry for me and she wants to say something nice, but the only thing she can say with integrity is she liked my tie.
Yeah.
So now I'm feeling even worse because she's just validated the
Yeah.
the identity
And
that I
your
that I
mind
built.
goes everywhere. Now you're telling yourself the story of potentially, oh, it was a pity um, compliment. She didn't know what to say. He could have said, that was a great seminar. I had a great time. It was, yeah, I learned so much, but she didn't know what to say. So she just focused on my tie, which I'm just making all this up. But
Right. But you're absolutely right. And I will never know what her intent was.
hmm,
Um, so are there other ways of interpreting what she said? You just listed a whole bunch of other possibilities. So why not pick, in the absence of evidence to the contrary, why not pick the better feeling interpretation?
at worst case scenario, there we go back to it. You know, you could, that we're looking at the worst case scenario. Why? She liked your tie and he seemed happy. Listen, I look at it this way too. If he was disgruntled from the all day seminar and the workshop, probably just would have left. So, and we can tell ourselves another story. Maybe she doesn't know how to give a compliment and doesn't know how to say that it was empowering, enriching. So she's like, I like your tie. That could be it
Yes.
too. You know, so you could tell yourself stories about anything, I guess, when you're presented with a fact.
So here's my thing. When I have a feeling that doesn't lift me up, that's not uplifting, that's my invitation to go into my own script and say, what's the interpretation? What's the script that I'm running that's giving me this sense of negativity, depression, fear, whatever? And is there another way of thinking about this?
Why do we do that? Why? Obviously, we have to be wired to go to the script that's laying in our subconscious. But why do we gravitate toward the negative outcome scenario?
Because um, the basic thing is um, I don't want to be, I got hurt. Psychologically, I got hurt at some point in my life.
Hmm.
I don't want to be hurt in that place again. And so I protect myself by telling myself the worst case scenario, then nobody else can do it to me.
So you go back to where you got hurt or burned, and then you use that script over again as a call it a self protection mode.
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I use the analogy of a callus. You know, if I do outside work and I get a callus on my hand says, okay, you hurt me there this time, but I'm going to fix it so you're not going to hurt me in that spot again in a long time.
Yeah.
And I build up the callus, and it becomes hard, and it becomes less sensitive.
And that example, or the callus that we put on, emotional callus, are they okay?
So calluses perform a function, but they also cause us to be less sensitive, and they allow us to experience. They limit the breadth of our experience. So once I've got that hard shell around me, as you refer to,
Hmm.
now I can't let the softer feelings in.
Okay.
The hard shell is there. But the other part is, and I see this so much with people who are living from a place of fear. Um, Again, it's like if I tell myself the worst case scenario, I'm somehow protected. But in the meantime, I told a client the other day that he's masterful at creating stories to scare himself. So he's looking at retirement, and now he's thinking about he's not gonna be making as much money, and that's going to affect his family, and his family's not going to be happy, and maybe his family's not going to leave him because it's not the provider he always was, and he isn't even there yet, but he's already ruining his life now because of what he projects might happen.
I can't believe you said this because I had this conversation with somebody last night. Not even kidding. And keeping it very short, in their situation, they had a spouse pass, um, just took a new job. Spouse passed almost 2 years ago. The benefits and everything will run out in a year, and they're worried about how am I going to keep the house? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Meanwhile, the job they just took, they don't like. It just, and I understand why they don't. And poor training, poor culture. It is what it is. And I said, why are you worrying a year out? So much could change between now and then. You're ruining your life now over something that is a year out. And even at the year mark, it's not going to be like everything's done. It's going to slowly change, or some of those funds will slowly go away. You got a year. And I said, first off, start looking for another job. That's number one. That's where we are now. If you don't like your job, you got to do that every single day. Work on that. And maybe you'll get a better paying job, maybe a better situation. What do you don't even know. So work on that now. But it's tough.
But like you said, in the meantime, he's depriving himself of the joy of the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I think it goes back to what we said, the self-protection mode, where we go back to those familiar things so we don't do it again or feel it again, but we have to bring those episodes up as a protection. And maybe something happened in their life, or the example you gave, and then there's things back there that they got hurt by, and they don't want it to happen again.
Sure. And it's there's always something back there. There's always a reason why.
Without a doubt.
But my contention is, but I don't have to continue to let that control me today.
Yeah.
There's a great scripture verse that says, "Let today's troubles be enough for today."
Perfect.
No, let's not bring next year's potential troubles into today.
I love it. And it basically says live in the present.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned callus. So I actually have one, like a wart callus. Never get them. I never get them. But it was like, I had a cut or something on my, near my knee, like a year ago. And I just, every once in a while, it's just like, I, touch it or whatever. It turned into, something with a hard shell on it.
Right.
So now I'm, taking stuff, knocking it down, whatever. But my point is that callus that we refer to, I don't even know I'm doing it, and I'm touching it. Like,
Right.
I peel it off. It's still there. It's still reminding me. So not always a good thing when you put that shell out there to protect yourself. Of course, like you said, where you're not going to let the other stuff in, but at the same time too, the callus is troublesome, because why did you get it? Because of trouble. Something was wrong.
Right. Right. But the other side of that is, isn't it amazing what your body did to take care of itself when you cut yourself?
For sure.
And if we could remind ourselves that we do have an innate mechanism that wants us to be whole and healthy. And whether something happens to us physically or whether something happens to us psychologically, that mechanism in us, I call it our inner magnificence, wants us to be whole and healthy. And if we'll listen to that voice, and I think that's what you're referring to when you said pay attention to our gut, if we listen to that voice, then life opens up to us in a much richer way.
Somebody told me recently that we're all designed to be happy, creative, healthy, enjoy life, all of that. That you should be doing that. And if you're not living. You're really not. And what are we doing? We're worrying about, today's troubles, past today. We're worrying about what could happen, what could happen, usually doesn't. All of that, and just derailing all the good stuff that could actually be coming to us. And we talked about manifestation before.
Right.
But all that good stuff is not coming to you because you've got all this other stuff in the way.
Yeah, one of my favorite research studies came out of the University of Iowa, and they looked at the average 2-year-old who hears the word no about 400 times a day. No, don't do that. No, 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 no. And what's happening is the average 2-year-old is just being themselves. They're just enjoying life, exploring life, spontaneous.
Yep.
but they get the message there must be something wrong with me because of all this negativity I'm hearing about my behavior, about what I'm doing, about what I'm saying, about what I'm thinking.
And there's where it goes wrong.
And there's where it goes wrong.
Yeah.
But you're right. We're designed to be happy, to be spontaneous, to be joyous, to be in the moment, to be loving, to be open. Children are, until that gets trained out of us.
And unfortunately, it starts at such an early age where that's what we know. Same thing, child, able to walk, barely two, kitchen table, reaches for the salt shaker. No, whoa, don't do that. No, no, put that down. Put that down. No, 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 no. I gotta know. I gotta know. And that's, I think, why many of us are used to the negativity. Because let's face it, our parents meant well, but it's negative.
Right. And that goes back to my contention that when we're judging other people's behavior, we do ourselves and them a favor if we think about what was their intent. You know, when I reached for that salt checker and I was told no, I mean, obviously I can't, my 2-year-old mind can't process it, but in retrospect, you know, they might not have done it the right way, but that was my parents' attempt at protecting me from hurt in the world. And so did they do it in the best of ways? Not really. But their intent was good. So let me give them a break on what their intent was.
Yep. However, if I knew now what I knew, what I did when I was a parent of younger kids, I would have done it completely radically different.
Absolutely. You and me too.
And I go back to all those moments and I'm like, I almost hate myself for it because I didn't know any better. I thought I was doing the right thing, or, the knee jerk, or you say something, out of protection, out of love. But it wasn't the right thing. But that's what we knew from our parents, who got it from their parents, who got it from their parents, and onward.
Yeah. I remember my daughter was in the 3rd grade and she brought home her report card and it was all A's except for handwriting and it was a C. So I said, okay, Christy, here's the plan. From now on, when you come home, we're going to have a snack and then you're going to practice handwriting. What did I say about all those A's that were there?
Right.
I picked up on the C because in my mind, I want her to have all A's. I want her to have that experience.
Yes. Yep.
But it traumatized her. Now it's like she gets the message, if I'm not perfect, I'm not okay. And so, as you say, as parents, our intent is often wonderful, but our technique is horrendous.
Absolutely.
And counterproductive.
And look at how that goes further in life. How many jobs have you had where your supervisor, boss, whatever, doesn't point out the good stuff before they point out the bad stuff? They just go to the bad stuff, which, what impression does that leave?
Right. Right. And that's why managers need training.
Yeah. Yep.
We should probably talk for another time.
I think we got something there, but that's the stuff that you work with to find somebody's magnificence. And even if you're thinking of that, let's say you are a boss, supervisor, whatever it might be. Imagine how much more you would get out, a company owner, out of people if you did it in a different way. And
absolutely,
I think also it's a lot of people in that position view employees as kids. And then what are you doing? You're repeating how your parents taught you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that just demonstrates my contention that we all need mentors. We never outgrow our need for a mentor, and the value of having somebody outside of us and not involved emotionally in what's going on with us to help us be to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the reason I was promoted was because I was good at doing the job I was doing. I wasn't promoted because I would be a good manager.
Fair enough. Bary, great talk today. And yeah, this was one of those things with a little bit deeper, but once we talk about it and peel a couple of layers, it's so crystal clear about the facts and the story you tell yourself. Don't tell yourself those stories. They're probably wrong. They're probably fiction, actually.
They're all fiction. So since they're all fiction, why not write good fiction?
Exactly. Your website is your name, so is it Dr.
DrBaryFleet.com, www.drbaryfleet.com. You can get access to my book. You can see my TEDx talks. You can see interviews with Jack Canfield. You've got my cell phone number. You can reach out to me, email me, text me. Let's talk. Let's make up better stories.
Yeah, love it. And you've got so much behind you to help people. It's fantastic. One of these days, we got to dig into your book, by the way.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that.
We have a plan. Those are the facts.
That's it.
Why does this come back in my head? I don't know what TV show it was. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Was that Dragnet? I don't know.
I think it was Dragnet. I think it was.
Yeah. Movie. They simulated that same line. Always great having you on. I appreciate you, and I'll look forward next time we talk.
Thanks so much, Steve. Take care.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.